Good morning, everyone. Good morning from Turin, and hello to those that are online. Today is the second day of the Eurovision's conference. Yesterday, we had a very productive day. We had our science slam, and we had book presentations. And today, we will have around three round tables. But let me introduce you to a pre-recorded video by one of our members that is not able to be here today, Isabel Campilo, and she will tell you a little bit about it.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second day of the Eurovision's conference. My name is Isabel Campilo, and as you probably noticed, I am not there with you, but you have me here in a pre-recorded video. And I'm following the second day of our conference through our YouTube channel. It's very easy, you can do it too. And I advise you strongly to do it because today we have an amazing day as well as yesterday's. So first of all, I would like to congratulate my colleagues Sofia Lopes, Irving Volter and Carla Figueira for the first day of our conference. It was very, very interesting and all our guests were incredible speakers. Today we will have three round tables about very pertinent and relevant issues regarding the Eurovision Song Contest. Now, we will have a lot of guests, many important people regarding the Eurovision Song Contest, but since they have very strange names for me to say, some of them, I will only say the title of our round tables and leave the names for my colleagues. It's a small present that I give them. So, first round table will be about the value of public service broadcasting. The second round table will be about Sanremo and its importance for the Italian music scene. And last but not least, the value of music for national public service broadcasters will be the theme of our last round table. So I hope you have a great second day of conference. Many interesting speakers, I guarantee you. I won't be able to say their names, but I guarantee they are fantastic speakers. And hope to see you next year in presence. Thank you. Have fun.
Before we move to our first roundtable, I'll just like to thank again our host, the University degli Studi di Torino, and particularly Jacopo Tomatis and Giulia Mugge, because they've been fantastic in allowing us to have this wonderful space here in Torino. And also would like to thank their students for their support making this conference happen. But because of that, I also want to note that there's other opportunities for you to delve into Eurovision and music conferences here in Torino. And today there will be such an opportunity. So I'll ask Jacopo to come and tell us about another opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thanks again for being here. We are really happy to host you, to host this international conference. So yes, the University of Torino is organizing a series of events dedicated to Eurovision, and this afternoon at 6 p.m., very close to the university at the Aula Magna della Cavallerizza Reale in the city center, we'll have Gigliola Cinquetti for a public meeting slash showcase, live showcase. Giulia Cinquetti is like a national treasure. She's the first Italian winner at Eurovision. She ended second in 1974, beaten by ABBA. So it's like our best option to support Eurovision. Gigliola will talk with me, and then she will perform a couple of songs. Entrance is free, but you need to reserve a place. And I think that, yes, there is a QR code, and you can just reserve your place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jacopo. So don't miss this wonderful opportunity. And I won't delay anymore the start of this first round table. And the whole day will be dedicated to exploring the intersection between public value, music, and national public broadcasting. So my colleague, Irvin Walter, will now moderate the first roundtable. Over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Hello, Europe. We are celebrating 5 years of Eurovision Conference. And, of course, for Eurovision's conference, we have to start with the Eurovision anthem. So let's all join and sing together. La 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 la. Bravo! Well, we're not starting with this anthem by coincidence, because this is, of course, an anthem that is joining all Europe and all European broadcasters. And we should remind that the Eurovision Song Contest is not necessarily a European song contest, but a contest of European public service broadcasting. So many of us might not be aware of the importance of public service broadcasting, of their values, of what it does for our society. And for this, we wanted to open the second conference day with a panel talking about the values of public service broadcasting, about the public value in general, what does it bring to the audience. And for this, I have two very, very interesting guests. First of all, let me introduce Jean-Philippe de Tende, the Deputy Director General and Director of Media at the European Broadcasting Union. And my second guest is from the Austrian broadcaster ORF, Konrad Mitschka. He's journalist, university lecturer, and works for the Public Value Competence Center. So let's start with a general approach to public service broadcasting. It's in fact made to educate, to inform, to entertain. What does music do in that? Is it only entertainment, or also education or information?
So good morning, Irving, and good morning, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation, and I very much appreciate as well all of the work you're doing. We're focusing on organizing a big event, but then seeing that so many people study these events is so enriching for us as well, and helps us in showing what the value is of the Eurovision Song Contest. But you're right, public service media is value-driven, and two of the main values are universality. You need to be there for everybody, but also you need to be independent. And I think the second value, independence, is very much important in terms of the core mission of having to inform, to bring independent news to people and to educate people. But entertainment is very important as well. In the past, when we still had linear broadcasting, entertainment was really helpful in terms of sandwiching, people and getting them towards the news broadcast. So the entertainment, the soap before or after, could be very helpful. But we often forget that entertainment as such is also very important in terms of public service media, because entertainment as well is a reflection of society, and showing who you have on stage, which artists you have performing, whatever entertainment format you have, is so important. And even in an ordinary soap, you think, oh, there's a soap, is that part of public service media? Yes, it is part of public service media, because in many soap or fiction or entertaining format, you get that reflection of society, and a lot of topics are being addressed, which are important for society, and it helps people think, people, reflect about important topics. And for a democracy to function well, you need to have informed citizenship. And that's where public service media play a core role in all of its genres that it performs. In terms of entertainment, I think it has been informed that many public broadcasters stimulate local creativity, in the sense that they have developed, the formats themselves. A lot of commercial broadcasters jump on what is the new international trend, and they go to Cannes and they buy, they bid a lot for to get that format in their territories. But public service media has always gone one step further in trying to be innovative and distinctive and find new ways of entertainment.
That public service broadcasting is based on several principles that have been defined, I think, long before World War II by the BBC. There is the universality of availability, universality of appeal, provision to minorities, service to the public sphere, educational programming, distance from all vested interests, structure that encourages competition for good programming, not competition for numbers, and broadcasting routes that liberate rather than restrict the program maker. So, Konrad, how did this set of principles develop, and is it still subject to change?
Yeah, of course, you always have, if you are dealing with values, you always have to be aware that they could change or could develop. But let me first put it like this. Usually, very rich people own media, and usually they use them, or at least can or could use them for their own purposes. And this is what we would call it, finally, shareholder value. Just imagine Zuckerberg or Bezos, or right now Elon Musk, who thinks about reuniting with Donald Trump on Twitter, which is brand new and which is maybe somehow frightening. And there must be, at least in my opinion, something else. Something else we would call public value. It's the answer to the question, who takes advantage of the media? And the ORF, the Austrian Broadcasting Corporation, tries to define that with the help of 5 quality dimensions. It's the individual value, it's the societal value, what we call the Austrian value, the international value, and the company value, corporate value. So if we would combine that with your first question about music, we could say the song contest is very strong in the respect of these 5 quality dimensions. The individual value, as you mentioned, Jean-Philippe, it certainly offers entertainment, just family entertainment, so it offers entertainment value. As far as societal value is concerned, I see it overall as an example for diversity, of course. For all participating countries, it also adds value. I think there is a last research done by the EBU where they say every euro you put into public service media develops to 3 euros for society. In Austria, every 8th job in the creative industry depends on the Austrian Broadcasting Corporation. We invest 100 millions in our film industry, and we are the only ones to do it. But still music, that the song contest can be seen as a bridge crossing Europe, something that connects us all, goes without saying, I think. Someone called Irving Walter has written it in a famous article here. He mentioned the song contest is a program that, because of its simplicity, knows how to promote international understanding of each other. All who watch have a common chance to perceive the unknown and become familiar with different personal and national identity constructs. So this is then of corporate value for the broadcasters themselves. It's a welcome occasion to demonstrate their competence. The song contest is therefore of strong public value. YouTube Music.
But for me, this sounds evident. I think in countries that are fee-based, where they have fee-based public broadcasters, you frequently hear, yeah, I'm not using that, and they don't offer the programs I want. I don't understand why I should pay my fee. who is defining what is public value? Is it the audience by their needs, or is it, let's say, by some superior values in society that are transported via the broadcasters?
For me, it's a question of discourse, of course. Yeah? It never stops. Yeah? There is no one who has the exact number of public value. I think it's, in German, you would call it incommensurable. I don't know if it's the right English expression, but it's something you can't measure by numbers, at least in my opinion. It's a question of debate. It's a question of interactivity and participation. Maybe your perspective of what's your personal benefit of media differs from mine, and that would be quite okay. But of course, there are some principles, you pointed it out: accountable news, entertainment for the whole family, universality, like everyone has to be able to approach, to access the contents we produce. But at the end, I would say it's maybe a question of regulated self-regulation, and the question of having a discourse with the audience, in between professionalists and the audience.
I think it's important how you define media. We call ourselves public service media. And in the past, we would have said we're a media organization, we're publicly funded, so we need to service. So the M was the most important word. For me now, the S is the most important word. Our role is to serve a society. We're publicly funded to do so, and we use media as a tool to do so. I sometimes find it difficult to say, I've been working in the industry now for 35 years, and in the past I would say I work for radio or work for television. What I now say is I work in the business of storytelling. You create stories, and people a society needs stories, to unite, to connect with one another. With the competition that is now global, that is under pressure. And public service media is quite a unique concept. It exists in Europe, if you compare it to the United States, where you don't have real public service media. For sure, you have PBS, but it's so small and limited in impact and crowd-funded that you see that the US is a very polarized, society. So that role of connecting, bringing stories, together is our role. And one nation compared to another, one broadcast compared to another, may do it in a different way, which is fine, I think. But it's being very well aware of the fact that the S, that servicing, is important. And then I'm happy that broadcasters like ORF and plenty of others now try and find ways, to measure this. How do you show you have impact on society? Media is power, and I don't like the word power because power is a commercial concept. We say media is impact, and we need to have positive impact, and I think that the challenge today in Europe is big because we see that polarization is surfacing as well in Europe. So how do we play, a role as European public service broadcasters to ensure that we unite society, that we inform them, properly with independent news? Now in a world where there's no border anymore, so media is still regulated on a national level, whereas it surfaces across the world. And I like an idea in the US, they don't talk about media anymore, they talk about the engagement business. And the one thing I have learned, that's the biggest lesson I had when I was still working at VRT, the Flemish public broadcaster. Someone told me, we're in the business of relationships. As media, we need to establish a relationship with your audience. And the nature of that relationship is very important and defines whether you're successful as public broadcaster or not.
So what is the driving power of public service broadcasters? Idealism?
Yes, somehow, of course. I mean, we are here to fulfill the needs of the society. Commercial media are here to fulfill the needs of their owners. That's a huge difference. I mean, not that everyone working for public service media is an idealist. No, not at all. I mean, we are just normal people. But I think many of us are actually driven by, yeah, you could call it idealism. They just want to deliver something of value to their society. You see, we annually publish a public value report. I've brought the latest one with me. And we invite our colleagues to write their own perspectives, what they think, how they should serve society. So this small booklet is full of articles of Austrian journalists, of Austrian entertainers, who write something like, in my opinion, I should do it like this because society needs, like doing some hardcore journalism concerning internal affairs maybe, but doing some Austrian movies maybe, and so forth and so on. And referring to what Jean-Philippe mentioned, because we are in a world of such bigger media, we try to point out, because people always think that the EBU is so huge, because if you see the European Song Contest, you think, well, it's such a huge show. And by the way, Italy did a great job, Rai did a great job last night with the semifinals. But compared to the tech giants, the EBU with all of its members is a dwarf. We tried to point it out because we could compare the biggest 6 tech giants. Facebook has the same money as the, what do you call it, as the whole Oman, state of Oman. Yeah? Microsoft is just like Kuwait, Alphabet is like Qatar, Apple is like Finland, and Amazon is like Egypt. And now the ORF is like Lustenau. And maybe you don't know Lustenau, it's not a state, it's a small village in Austria. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, we are not on the same, we are just not equal. The whole EBU is 20 times smaller than the 5 biggest tech giants. So I think, yeah, somehow we are idealists.
So I see that there is a lot of research done in terms of public value within the ORF. You have a special competence center for that, but first I thought, well, if public value is at the core of public service broadcasters, why do they need a special competence center for that? Because it should be in their genes. Are these values eroding in time and you need to renew them constantly?
You always have to refresh something. I mean, every university has something like quality management, doesn't it? I mean, even scientists need sometimes to be reminded of what their initial purpose is, maybe. And of course, my colleagues do as well, and me, myself as well. And I think the whole EBU, before we started to discuss, I just wanted to remind Jean-Philippe, because of the show yesterday, I missed something. I missed some sounds of silence. And because we are at war in the Ukraine, or Ukraine is at war with Russia, and we had so many deaths during Corona. And it's also sad. And I thought yesterday, why didn't they give 30 seconds? I don't know. Why didn't they even mention? So I asked him, and he told me, well, we are aware of it. You don't need to remind me. Yeah. Wait till Saturday, I think. Yeah. So you see, it's always a question of having discourse, and maybe if you pose the right questions, you can sleep better because of the answers.
If I may, the reason why we need to, why we have these competence centers, or why we show the contribution to society, is that there's an issue locally with local governments who have considerably reduced funding, plus the fact that there is an international competition which is not an equal competition. So when I talk to politicians, I always say to them, the more you invest in local public service media, the better your local commercial competitor will be, and the better your creative ecosystem will be. So the best way to ensure that you get local information, local creativity, local identity, is to invest in public service media. But it's no longer, a given, because why should we be paying for public service media if you get it for free, through the others. And it's good, and when you compare it, if on average it's €3 per citizen you invest compared to the 14 or 15 euro you pay for Netflix, and how much you pay for HBO, and then you buy another film. So that has become much more important, and it remains a challenge, because one of the biggest tricks now is that in general, we like a license fee, because like a license fee is a direct contract between your citizens, your audience, and the one who is providing a service. And if you're unhappy, you complain about it. When it is included in the taxes, then you have the risk of that politicized governments, or polarized governments don't want to invest in public service media because they think there's not independent, or it's not their message that's getting across. Plus, how do you control the independence? So that's why we need to reiterate and to really show what the value is of public service media.
You see, may I add something? My grandfather was a poor mechanic, and he was actually very proud of having the same rights regarding the public service media because of him paying the same fee as a billionaire. It's just a question of same level, or it was for him. So I agree concerning license fee. I think it makes something with you that you have a contract with someone. It empowers you on a certain level.
Same level is a good keyword. I mean, the EBU is the umbrella organization for lots of public broadcasters that are in their structure, in their funding, in their maybe also approaches to public service broadcasting very, very different. So how do you manage to keep these broadcasters together and go into the same direction? I'm particularly thinking of countries like Hungary, Poland, and of course, the two countries that are no longer member of the EBU, Belarus and Russia.
It is a challenge, because we see that more and more governments in certain regions are pressuring public service media. So the role is the EBU to protect the local broadcaster and to have a conversation with governments. Some say, well, you need to expel them, you need to kick them out. Personally, I don't think that is a good idea, because once you've put a cross on a certain territory and you say, no public service media, no member of the EBU, I think that territory is lost for the future to connect back with values. So what we do is, not everybody is at an equal level of independence. Not everybody at an equal level of adhering to the values. We're trying to find a system to measure, and we know there are various measuring systems across Europe in terms of independence in journalism and so on. But for the ones who are not best of class, we try now to help them, to support them, in terms of lobby work, but also in terms of becoming more independent, so that they stay part of the broader family. But it is worrying that there is more and more pressure in Europe on public service media in certain territories. And I don't have to mention the countries, but you know who they are. So it's a hard job, and we try to be inclusive as well, but it's education.
Maybe for those who don't know about the internal processes of deciding that, I think this is very interesting to see how a family of public broadcasters decides about new members or about who is being a member or not. So maybe you can explain a little bit more about the decision processes, and is there a threshold of respecting public service values or not? Or is it just a question of discussion?
So the EBU, we have roughly 115 members across 55 countries. We have a long, history. The procedure is that if you want to become a member, you need to apply. You need to prove that you contribute to the family, and then what we call the statutes group is assessing all of that, and it then goes to the General Assembly, like the EBU is like the United Nations public service media. So we have a General Assembly which decides on the topic. In terms of controlling this, and we are actually revisiting this because there's much more pressure on the values. We had Belarus being suspended from membership of the EBU last year. Suspension is a decision which the executive board can take. So Belarus has been suspended for 3 or 5 years, I think. To be expelled again, it's a decision of the General Assembly. The discussion we're having internally now is how there's a crisis of values, not only within public service media, there's a crisis of values in society. How do you measure that? How do you mitigate that? And how do you ensure that public service media remains, a backbone of society? And that is a challenge. That is difficult as such.
This year, due to the situation in Ukraine, several public broadcasters called for the expulsion of the Russian broadcasters. So we don't want this member of the family with us anymore. The EBU was criticized for taking such a long time to react on that, because at the beginning he said it's a non-political event, and we understand that, of course, you don't want to blame the public broadcaster for what the government is doing. But there was a feeling that some members of the family joined to rebel against father and mother. So how did you perceive that? And is this a natural development within the EBU?
In terms of the Eurovision Song Contest, we were the first to take a decision. We did it within 36 hours. So the invasion was on Thursday morning. I think on Friday afternoon, we had decided that Russia could not take part in the Eurovision Song Contest. The reason was, indeed, some of the members said, if Russia is going to be on stage, we're not going to be on stage and we're not going to broadcast. There was a lot of pressure on social media. But then it's not up to me just to take a decision that cannot take place. So you need to look back at what are the rules of the Eurovision Song Contest. There's clearly a rule that says that if, as a member, as a participant, you bring the EBU or the Eurovision Song Contest in disrepute, then we have ground to suspend you from participating, which was done. So the reference group made a recommendation. We had a TV committee meeting on Friday, and ultimately the executive board decided that they could not take part. That was within 36 hours. The Russian public broadcasters are still member of the EBU, but there's a discussion and a process ongoing whether they need to be suspended or not. And clearly the voices are increasing, to have them not part of the family, or at least to suspend them for the time being. But that decision has not yet been taken so far.
These are very spiny questions, political questions. We are not going to ask these all the time. But there's another spiny question that I think people ask themselves if they talk about public service broadcasting. And this is the question of using public service broadcasting for promotional messages, for support from sponsors. So in some countries, they watch Eurovision, and in every break there are commercials. In some others, like in Germany, there are no commercials at all. So how does this fit with the principle of distance from vested interests?
Well, for me, it's sometimes a question of the hugeness of a market. I mean, if you compare Austria to Germany, it's 10 times smaller. It's like a big brother. And of course, they don't need any commercials because of their license fees. Yeah? For us, we have just one. I mean, I always put it like this. Yeah? When the last Pope was elected, we in Austria, we had enough money to send 3 correspondents there. Just Austria, to the Pope as a Roman Catholic country, 3 correspondents. Bavaria, part of Germany, like as large as Austria, sent 85. So we need commercials, believe me. Somehow, even though I strongly feel that we are independent from any economic questions in Austria. I know that because we always have debates about journalism and independency from political views and from economical views, like if they don't spend any commercials, should we change our program? So we never do that. And Austrians are very well aware of that there's a difference between commercial media and ours, even though we have commercial breaks as well. There's a huge difference. We are not dependent on that. It's an extra.
As you say, Conrad, the point is it's local regulation who defines how public service media is funded. Some go for the license fee model, some go for a combined model as such. And that's why in some countries, you know, we interrupt and they have the usual commercials in between the acts, and in other countries that's not the case. So that's not a European decision and European regulation, but that's national regulation.
Yeah, but what, for example, if one country, a host country of the Eurovision Song Contest, would decide that their main sponsor is the tobacco industry?
Again, that is national regulation. It's the national authorities who decide, you know, whether you have advertising or not. And in some countries, they entirely ban advertising for tobacco across all platforms.
I mean, sometimes, of course, you would get an answer from us like, oh no, we would feel embarrassed. Maybe not with tobacco national regulation, but something else. Yeah. But I think, again, it's a question of diversity in Europe. Sometimes I admire people like Jean-Philippe because he has to stand these diversities every day. I only have to stand Austrian diversity, which is quite enough for me.
Yeah, so we see that national regulations, of course, have to be respected, but how if they contradict the values of public service broadcasting? I mean, if, let's think, Russia won the Eurovision Song Contest last year, and this year we would have a queer act, and they would say, oh, this is homosexual propaganda, this is not allowed in our country. How would the EBU react?
They cannot say this because when with the host country which wins, you know, they need to guarantee that they can host it, but they need to guarantee freedom of speech, and they have no say whatsoever in the show. It's not when you come to a country that the prime minister will do the opening or someone will get a message across. And I actually think that there is an opportunity, especially when you move to territories where freedom of speech may be under pressure, to go there and to make a statement by conferences like this and being present and guaranteeing that it happens. That's part of the Eurovision Song Contest, that we're not changing our values because we're moving to a certain territory.
We have applause in the audience for that, and I think this is worthwhile an applause. So the organizing broadcaster has no say in that because they have to respect freedom of speech, and that's what we want to do in Eurovision too. So we give freedom of speech to the audience, so feel free to ask your questions to our guests.
I don't know if at the moment anyone has a question to ask. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Ricardo, and I was just wondering something. I'm not exactly sure how public television related my question is, but given what's going on in the Ukraine, and given the fact that the Ukraine, at least in the polls, seems to be a likely contender or winning contender, if it did win, what would happen?
Well, if you look at the bookmakers, Ukraine is very well placed to win. Sometimes the bookmakers are wrong, and I've been in Eurovision Song Contest for quite a number of years, so I always pick the wrong winner. So I'm never sure until the final result is given. If Ukraine were to win, there are two rules. One rule says the host broadcaster, the country that wins, is going to host the Eurovision Song Contest. The second thing we say is we need to ensure that we can host it in safe and secure circumstances. So if Ukraine were to win, we'll definitely have a conversation on how that can happen, because security is key for organizing such a big event. So I'm not anticipating on how that would be done, because first I want to see who is winning, but it's definitely a challenge we face. But saying that they cannot host it would be wrong, because they win it, they take the title home, so they should be able to organize the Eurovision Song Contest in whatever way, if they were to win.
I have a question coming from YouTube. So the question is, do you think there is much importance on the song contest in getting young people towards public service broadcasting?
Absolutely. If you say if you look at the stats, Eurovision Song Contest as a program is doubling the audience in the local territories. It's quadrupling the audience for younger audiences. It's very popular on social media. TikTok has come on board as one of the sponsors. And I think if everybody thought France will win last year, and I also saw France will win for a good song, the tradition of the Eurovision Song Contest, but Maneskin won. And I definitely think that it is the younger vote which has made the change in between France, and Italy, which actually I like very much, because this Eurovision Song Contest, which has been there for decades, suddenly is taking another direction, because young audience love it, and they want to make it their own. So it's important.
I think music can also fulfill something called a piggyback function in communication science. So an attractive content, music, helps to guide people to the program, which then offers further valuable content that perhaps would not be used by so many without the attractive primarity content. In Austria, Ö3 is worth mentioning here. This is one of the most successful pop stations in Europe, market share 40% in about, and they've been dealing with Generation Z recently, for example. So I'll have to digress for a moment. A few years ago, the EBU launched a European project, Generation What? Young people all over Europe answered the same questions about their lives and attitudes. I was very proud to say then that Austria had the most participants compared to the size of the country. And a lot of important social, political topics were asked and discussed on the radio, many phone-in broadcasts. And because so many people liked it, we've already done it twice more on Ö3, most recently a few days ago, under the title Generation Crisis, this time. Over 40 questions, over 20,000 young participants. 20,000 is for a country with 9 million of inhabitants, a really huge number, because it took 20 minutes to fill in all these questions. And the results were, for example, just for example, the example of the EC, 44% of the participants experience community in a medium through listening to music together. And explicitly in the song contest, it's 19%. So every fifth listener, if you want it like that, relies on the song contest while being in a community in our country. So as you can see, with the help of good programming, of good contests, that consists of both good music and attractive word content, you get the opinion and also the interest of young audiences.
So is this part of the EBU strategy to have a family of events focused on music with the young musicians, with the Eurovision of choirs, with the Junior Eurovision, to gather people around their TV sets?
Well, the Eurovision Song Contest and the Junior is, and even the Austrian, the Vienna Philharmonic and the New Year's Day concert, this is bringing people together. And the first time when I came to the Eurovision Song Contest on site, I saw on site what was happening with regards to diversity, all of these countries coming together. And you see it as well, people will gather in masses, in families, have chips and a beer or a glass of wine and celebrate and have the voting cards as such. And I don't think there's any other event which compares to the Eurovision Song Contest, which has this impact. It's an old lady, but it's still a very young and passionate, lady, which is becoming more and more important, I would say, year by year.
But maybe we should invent furthermore events like that. I mean, I would be proud of them, as I'm proud of the song contest. I think the EBU could be a good place for that, like, don't know, electing the European digital champion, like don't having an ESC only, but an EDC, or the like. Yeah.
So we have another question from the internet.
Actually, it's from the room, is my question. And just kind of going back to the broader subject of public value, and actually how you define public value. So valuable to whom, which relates a little bit to the earlier question of the focus on young people. If you could give us an insight of how maybe the EBU provides guideline for its members, or how you deal with this at operational level within a national broadcaster. How do you get to the definition of what is valuable for what public? Do you bring in, for example, young people? Do you consult them? Just an insight into that. Thank you.
Well, I just can't answer for Austria. I don't know anything. I mean, I do know something about Germany and Switzerland, but not all over Europe. So in Austria, for us, we defined it, as I pointed out earlier, public value with the help of 5 quality dimensions with 18 criteria. We have even a sign for it, like circle here, like individual value, but I don't want to bore you right now with that. I think more important is that we ask people, of course. For example, we do an annually research asking 1,000 people, which fulfills the needs of being perfect match to the Austrian society. If they are content, what would be their needs? They very often answer like they would love to watch culture programs, which we all know they don't do afterwards. I mean, more people say that you should offer culture than watch it by themselves. We also discuss with the audience, which we call audience talks, 3 times a year. It's a room like that, 50 young and elder people, like educated people, non-educated people, big people, small people, whatever. And we ask them, example given, what do you think about sports? Are we on the right path? Do you think we should change our program? Do we offer enough? Do we offer the right sports and so far and so on? And we have experts panels as well. Once a year, we invite, example given, experts concerning religion. It's somehow fantastic because it's a room full of the rabbi, of the mullah, of atheists who usually come from the universities, and our journalists for religious programs in this case, and they talk about what's the task of public service media in the 21st century concerning religion. And that's what we're doing with sports, entertainment, news, and we have another topic. And in addition to that, we ask you, scientists. We ask on an annually basis, we are doing a research This year, it's about journalism as the fourth power in the state. How does it change in the digital age? And we published that. Yeah? I brought the thing we did when the song contest was in Vienna. I brought it with me. Here you have a bench full of scientists responding to the question what they feel about the public value of the ESC. So I think when we bring all that in the discourse, when we all debate that with experts, with the audience, with the young audience as well, we are right now starting a process with younger ones and with non-viewers, because we felt we should ask, why don't you watch us? Maybe there could be answers, what we could change. So yeah, for me, it's a question of quality management somehow. Mm-hmm.
Just to add, I think listening is key. You need to listen to your audiences. They need to be close to your audiences. And I think we had a challenge, where media became capital-based. You're in your big building, you're well-educated, well-informed, and you got too far away from the audience. So I see a trend. You look at the BBC, who said, we have too many people in London. We need to go back, across the UK and feel what people are really thinking. So that listening to your audiences, listening to society is key. And I'm happy to say that media has become, the doors have opened. In the past, media was like a career. Oh, you're a journalist or you're a presenter, and you're a presenter for life. You will retire as a presenter. Now there's a much bigger turnover in staff, which I think is actually great. Young people coming on board, other people being replaced, which as society is changing, I think we, who our staff is, should change as well. And we need to constantly, adapt. I think we talked like when this digital disruption started 10 years ago, everybody was looking, oh, what is happening? But it's not going to happen to me. And then everybody realized, oh, it is happening to me. And if we solve this Facebook problem, it'll be solved. Today, I learned that we will be in disruptive mode all the time. Professor Michael Wade from IMD Lausanne says media is the most disruptive business there is. So we'll have to continue to adapt, and it's learning. How do you become an agile and a flexible organization to remain close, to adhere to your values, but also to respond to what the needs of society are. And personally, I think we need to be much more proactive. We have been looking at what is happening and then respond. I think now we need to be proactive and upfront say, this is the role of public service media. This is what society needs, and this is the answer we are providing.
Mine, just actually following from what you just said. So the broadcasters moving from managing crisis or trying to add to what the market is doing to trying to shape the market. Do you think in terms of funding, a lot of our members can actually now become market shapers? What needs to happen more, in terms of funding, for example, for that new step to be able to be taken by the majority?
As I said, the word S became much more important. So servicing, what are the services? What are the formats? How do you connect with your audiences is important. What I try to do when I speak on a national level is the more you invest in public service media, the better your local creative system will work. When I look at my home country, Belgium, they have been investing a lot in young talent in terms of film, and have been giving funds to public service media, and there's a film fund. And now suddenly, you have in Ghana, the Rose d'Or, 2 of the final contestants are Belgian. That's because they invested in public service media. They invested in creativity, which now is rewarding, Belgian in Ghana as well. Also, in terms of innovation, you have a lot of members who have innovation labs, who may contribute directly to the broadcast, but which also have an impact on the industry. I think YLE, the Finns, they have like an academy on site where they have startups connecting, with staff from YLE, which is a win-win-win situation.
Well, we all hope that the future of public service broadcasting will remain a win-win situation. It will, of course, for all the Eurovision fans, because without public service broadcasting, there is no Eurovision Song Contest. So thank you very much, Jean-Philippe de Tender and Konrad Mitschka, for these precious insights into the world of public service broadcasting and public value. Applause. And we'll see each other in a few minutes with the second panel about Sanremo and the importance for the Italian music industry. Stay tuned. Hello, finally we are back for our second panel, and of course it took a little bit more time because we have a little bit more people here, many interesting people, and we're very proud, first of all, to introduce to you Jalis, the Sanremo winners of 1997. This is another music, so let's start with some music.
Che devo fare? No, fatemi capire. Aspetta, aspetta.
Alessandra.
Io parlo esclusivamente in italiano, I speak only in Italy. E allora queste cose mi escono così.
Allora, sì, facciamo un omaggio intanto ai Maneskin.
Ah, ok.
Ok, vuoi dirlo?
Dillo te in inglese, se lo fai
No,
in inglese.
facciamo un omaggio ai Maneskin.
Hai detto?
Allora.
Hai detto?
First of all, they are paying a tribute to Måneskin.
A little tribute.
Just a little. Noi parleremo in italiano. We speak in Italian and the president of Italy, Cristina, translate in English. So just because we can talk about Jalisse with our hearts, in Italian hearts. It's okay for us? Okay, thank you. For us, for you. Per me, per noi.
Ho detto colline che può crescere, delle sue cose può partire, ma sono un po' che non viene in gabbia che le ricorda la strada di mine. Ho detto colline che può crescere, delle sue cose puoi partire, ma Coralline non vuole mangiare, no, si Coralline vorrà salire, e Coralline piange, Coralline se Coralline vuol fare ma non vuole l'acqua, e forse fare il vento di lei. E ogni parola nasce taglio sulla schiena, come una zattera che carica in un fiume in piena, e forse il fiume è dentro di lei.
Sì, abbiamo un problema di ribattuta.
Posso dire? Io canto anche senza microfono,
Ma la ribattuta c'è
Bravissimo, bravissimo. Grazie mille ai Jalis per questo primo momento musicale. So, welcome you all to the second panel about Sanremo and its importance for the Italian music scene. And except the Jalis, I want to introduce to this panel this Imogen team, president of OG Italy, and our interpreter today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Emanuele Martini, freelance journalist and head of EuroFestivalNews.com, the biggest fan site about Eurovision in Italy. And thank you so much. And Nico Donito, music journalist and book author of the new book about Sanremo, il Festival dell'Italia del Boom al Rock dei Måneskin. And here's my first question. Italy has its Sanremo Festival for 70 years. It's an institution, and there are still constantly new books appearing on this phenomenon. So, what's the secret behind this festival that is still triggering music journalists and authors to write about it?
Da quando esiste Sanremo ci sono sempre nuovi libri sull'argomento, quindi vorrebbe sapere qual è il segreto di questa manifestazione che attrae così tanti scrittori.
Sì, ma anch'io faccio come la mia Alessandra, fa molto bene. Il segreto è argomentarsi. Il segreto è reinventarsi, non rimanere a se stessi. Quindi Sanremo ha questa capacità, ha avuto questa capacità negli anni di essere anche uno specchio del paese, una rappresentazione d'Italia in tutte le sue situazioni.
Okay, the secret is that the Sanremo Festival is constantly changing, never stays the same throughout the years, and it is also something like a mirror of the Italian people, the Italian situation, and never stays the same.
Just a quick remark. When you don't speak, please switch the microphones off because we have tons of feedback. So Sanremo is constantly changing throughout the years. What is your opinion? What's the importance for the Italian music scenes, for the musicians of Sanremo that took part in Sanremo?
Sicuramente Sanremo è nato dopo la seconda guerra mondiale, nel momento in cui c'era bisogno di creare un nuovo tipo di musica, dopo il fascista, dopo tutto quello che c'è stato, quindi ha portato in quel frangente un nuovo tipo di musica che negli anni si è evoluta in base alla società.
Sanremo was born just shortly after the Second World War, and just after the fascism in Italy. So the idea was to create a different type of entertainment and also a different type of music. And that was just the right thing to do for that moment because everybody needed something. I can say something beautiful, something normal after the war and after the fascism.
So we are talking about the 50s, then later in the 60s there was a more international impact of Sanremo. Nowadays, what is the impact of Sanremo on the international music scene?
Dunque parlavamo degli anni 50, negli anni 60 abbiamo avuto un impatto internazionale e adesso qual è l'impatto sulla scena internazionale di Sanremo?
Sicuramente i Maneskin hanno dato una ventata di aria fresca anche agli occhi di quello che la musica italiana all'estero. Per tanti anni probabilmente c'era un certo tipo di pop, l'hanno così i Maneskin hanno sicuramente dato una ventata nuova, portando quella scena, quel ricambio generazionale che in Italia era già venuto da tanto tempo.
About the international music scene, the victory of Måneskin was a breath of fresh air because until then there was some very good Italian pop, but just like, let's say, Laura Pausini, more normal pop. Måneskin brought, but they refreshed the music scene. They brought young music, rock music, and it was a real bit of fresh air. Also, concerning the image of Italy, of musical Italy abroad.
The question of Italian music abroad is also addressed in the new book of Emanuele Lombardi, who is focusing on Italy's journey in the Eurovision Song Contest. So Italy and the Eurovision Song Contest has not always been a history of love, let's say, because of Sanremo maybe. What do you think? Can this change as long as Sanremo has such an importance in Italy?
I think that we are in a new phase in the relationship from Sanremo and Eurovision because in the recent years in the Sanremo rules it is written that the representative of the Italian representative will be the winner of Sanremo. It is written in the rules of Sanremo Festival. So this is an important link that improves and the situation and the relationship of Sanremo and Eurovision. The problem in the previous years is that there was a different management also in right that don't like Eurovision and thought that it could be something that can make Sanremo such a level bit in the side. But this is not this was not an intelligent point of view. They use some kind of excuses to justify this, and this is because after Jenny's participation, we will be absent for 13 years. The new Italian rally management, fortunately now trust in Eurovision. So I think this rejection could be an important future, an interesting future, and I think Måneskin victory and this edition in Turin could be an important boost for this.
So Sanremo is about Italian music, about Italian culture, but it's also about lots of commercial interests. So the Eurovision Song Contest could be an ideal, could have been also in the past an ideal platform to promote Italian music abroad. So what is the interest of or the reaction of the record companies in Italy to the response to Eurovision?
This is a good question, and this is a very spiny question, because we are seeing also this year, we are, for example, 4 artists in this Eurovision edition that they are of the same measure, of the same level, and Italian record companies only are here for the artist that is on the Italian mainstream. So, for example, Achille Lauro or for Emma Muscat. But there are a lot of some interesting contestants on the same important measure, and they don't feel like absolutely about that. So this is a complicated question. I think Italian viewers, Italian music passionates, starting to like finally Eurovision. For the music, the Italian music market, I think there is still have to do a journey to arrive to promote the music. We will see. We are talking yesterday with some others that are in the bubble of Eurovision, and we are talking about that. Why we have 4 artists of the same measure in Eurovision, and Italian market only is interested the one who is on the Italian mainstream. Why this?
Allora la prossima domanda la voglio chiedere a Jadis. Voi avete già partecipato nel 1996 con Liberami, e poi avete vinto l'edizione di 97. Che cosa significava vincere il Festival di Sanremo in modo per la vostra carriera? So I was asking the Jadis, they took part already in Sanremo 96 and won the edition in 97. What did this victory mean for their career?
Un percorso lungo, perché è iniziato dal Sanremo Giovani 95, noi siamo arrivati a Sanremo poi 96 di diritto e sorry. Dicevo, è stato un percorso lungo, perché noi abbiamo cominciato con Sanremo Giovani 95 in base al regolamento di Baudo, e c'erano 3 tappe appunto nel Sanremo Giovani, Sanremo 96 con Liberami. I primi 8 classificati andavano poi di diritto a Sanremo 97.
Okay, it was a long journey because they took part in Sanremo Giovani in 1995, and there were several steps. And the first, they won because the first 8 acts were going to Sanremo Giovani, the official Sanremo Giovani in 1995, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
E quando siamo arrivati a Sanremo nel 97, il nostro unico desiderio era quello di passare tra i big, come da regolamento. Non ci saremmo mai immaginati la vittoria. Tra l'altro, quell'anno partecipavano grandi artisti come Patti Bravo, Anna Oxa, Ritorno di Neck, c'era anche Massimo Ranieri, Fausto Leali, insomma c'era tantissimi grandi artisti, grandissimi big, e noi siamo riusciti a superarli con fiumi di parole.
When they arrived in Sanremo 1997, of course, they hoped to be promoted to the big category because the rules said that 4, if I remember well, 4, vero? Sì. 4 of the acts coming from Sanremo Giovani would be promoted to the big category. Little did they know they would win the whole thing. It was, a surprise for them. Also because a lot of very famous Italian singers were taking part, say Patti Bravo, Anna Oxa, Fausto Leali, and they just didn't think they could win the whole thing. It was a surprise for them.
E dal momento in cui abbiamo vinto, per noi si è realizzato un grandissimo sogno e diciamo che dal 97 a oggi siamo riusciti a concretizzare questo marchio Gialisse fiumi di parole. Poi è arrivato l'Eurovision ed è stata una sorpresa incredibile e abbiamo vissuto una settimana meravigliosa a Dublino con la condivisione vera e propria della musica, delle etnie, veramente c'era grande coalizione. Al di là della gara c'era comunque grande collaborazione da parte di tutti quanti i musicisti.
Winning Sanremo was a dream come true for them, and from then until now they succeeded in consolidating Jalis and Fiumi di Parole, I would say, as a trademark, as a logo. And then came the Eurovision Song Contest, and that was more about sharing, about being all together, about sharing culture, music, more than winning. It was about being together with people from different nations, different culture, and it was incredible. They had an incredible week in Dublin.
Ancora oggi ringraziamo Sanremo per essere qui in questo momento. Se noi non avessimo probabilmente vinto, non avessimo partecipato all'Eurovision, adesso non saremmo qui. E noi invece siamo grati di quella grandissima visibilità che ancora oggi è una tra le grandi visibilità che l'Italia dà alla musica italiana.
And they are still grateful to Sanremo because hadn't they win Sanremo, they probably wouldn't be here today with us. Sanremo gave them fame, they gave them exposure to the public, and it still gives this kind of exposure to everyone who takes part and to the Italian music. So they still are grateful to Sanremo Festival.
Allora, sì, un momentino.
the sound check. We are trying the sound check in real time.
It's not simple.
Because the live.
Allora, noi sappiamo che la RAI non era molto interessato nell'Eurovision Song Contest, hanno avuto paura di vincere questo evento già in 93 con Enrico Ruggeri e poi l'Italia era sparito dal palco dell'Eurovision, ma voi dopo 3 anni avete potuto tornare. Come si è svolta questa storia? So Italy was taking part in 93 with Enrico Ruggeri, and the RAI was never fond of winning this competition because they thought of the expenses that that would bring. And in 94, no Italy, 95, no Italy, 96, no Italy, but suddenly in 97, Jalis managed to take part in Eurovision. How did this happen?
Dunque, noi abbiamo avuto la fortuna di partecipare all'Eurovision Song Contest nel 1997 a Dublino e sappiamo che ci sono state tanti fiumi di parole sui Jalis, sulla vittoria di Sanremo, ma soprattutto sul quarto posto, sul fatto che la RAI non volesse vincere, sulle parole di Ettore Andenna, le parole di Gigi Vesigna, le parole di tante persone che hanno testimoniato una sorta di boicottaggio verso i Jalis. Io credo che ci siano sicuramente state delle persone che sono andate contro i Jalis, che non hanno voluto, probabilmente per qualche business, per qualche affare personale o forse perché volevano dimostrare una certa, non so, distacco dall'Eurovision. Noi siamo stati purtroppo vittime di questo embargo e anche di questa cattiveria, però devo dire che, come diceva Alessandra, Sanremo e Eurovision Song Contest sono nel nostro cuore e quello che ci ha dato non ci toglie nessuno, quello che ci è stato tolto non ce lo dà nessuno, non ci ritorna, però posso vedere che dal 2018 ad oggi sia Sanremo, comunque la RAI stessa nei confronti dei Jalis ha aperto un'ottica e anche un occhio diverso. Ricordo Ora o Mai Più, ricordo Tale e Quale, i programmi della RAI dove ha partecipato Alessandra. Cristina, scusami.
Okay, if I forget something, I will ask you. Okay. So he said, we've been so lucky as to win Sanremo. We've been so lucky as to take part in Eurovision. Il microfono aperto? Okay. We've been so lucky as to take part in Eurovision. And no, it's strange. Sorry. Okay. Rivers of words have been spent about RAI not wanting to win Eurovision. Words have been said by Ettore Andenna and other Gigi Vesigna and so on. But well, they feel that there's been something anyway. There's been something. Someone maybe being disturbed by them winning Sanremo, and they really. There've been such. Oh my God! No, è che sento, scusa, mi sento il riverbero, è terribile. Yeah, okay. But anyway, what has been taken away won't come back. With this, maybe it's better. Maybe it's better. Okay, it's better. Okay. Okay. So many words have been said about somebody not wanting them to win Sanremo, about not wanting to win the Eurovision Song Contest, but without any doubt, there's been something against them. Someone boycotted them, but what has been given won't be taken away. What has been taken away won't come back. But now, after all of these years, they can say that a new vision about solistes has been created. They have taken part in some programs such as Ora mai più, Tale quale, and something new is happening. C'era altro che volevi?
Concludo dicendo che noi vogliamo chiudere, grazie ad Amadeus e a Carlo Conti che ci hanno permesso di fare Ora mai più e tale quale, vogliamo chiudere con il passato. Quello che è stato non ci ridà, nessuno ce lo ridà indietro. Vogliamo aprire una nuova pagina perché i giallisti sono qui, stanno portando avanti la loro musica. Ci auguriamo di ripartecipare all'Eurovision Song Contest perché ci piacerebbe anche con un'altra nazione, perché crediamo che noi nel cuore portiamo il fatto di essere italiani, ma la musica è internazionale, è di tutti, e speriamo anche, ci auguriamo anche di poter tornare a Sanremo, ma vogliamo chiudere quel libro e aprirne uno nuovo di musica, di serenità e per guardare avanti anche il futuro.
So now they want to close with the past, they want to close that book and open a new one. They would love to take part in Eurovision again, but maybe not for Italy, for another nation, because they are proud to be Italian, but music is international. So they would even love to take part for another nation. And they would love to go back to Sanremo, but the main thing is that the past is past, and that now a new page of the book has been opened, and they are going on towards a better future.
Grazie mille. I will take this opportunity now to welcome our panelist Giacomo Natali, who just arrived, writer and communication and geopolitics analyst. And thank you for being here because you will have a book presentation just this afternoon. So we are very happy to welcome you here. So talking about Italy and Eurovision and this ambiguous, this ambiguous love that is uniting Sanremo and Eurovision. How do you feel about this? Do you think that Italy in the 90s was more self-centered and did not want to be part of Europe so much like the other countries?
Yeah. It's tough. Should I answer in English or Italian, or both?
I think English would be best.
So it's a tough question, and there are several layers, of course. If we're, as you said, if you want to move to a more anthropological or sociological aspect, my hypothesis is that there wasn't the same drive for Italy. Has always been quite one of the most Europeist, the most enthusiast about European integration. I think that they didn't understand how Eurovision could be part of that. They probably thought that it was something that they had to do, but they didn't understand how powerful a tool it could be. So, and I think the drive was less powerful because we can, again, it's an hypothesis, but Italy didn't feel the need for atonement that Germany had. It didn't have neither the ambition that France could have of a cultural hegemony on the continent, or Great Britain that was substituting a real empire with a cultural empire, with a cultural penetration. And Spain, I'm talking about the big five, of course, that's the comparison. Spain had, again, another strong need to get back into Europe. Italy was already there. It's always been among the founders of all the European institutions. So they never felt this
need, I think, to neither need, neither ambition.
Mhm.
That could be a...
So we just heard about the feelings of musicians feeling somehow excluded from RAI and the success of Sanremo throughout the years. We had in the past other examples of the RAI interfering, for example, the song of Giulio Cinquetti not being played in RAI radio, so most Italians are not aware of a song called Si.
Yes.
And in the past, there was also this Commissione d'Ascolto in the Sanremo Festival that judged whether the lyrics were suitable for the Italian public or not. To what extent was the RAI contributing to deliver a certain image of Italianity in the world through these regulative instruments?
I think we shouldn't never overestimate Italian organization skills. So it's hard. I wouldn't say that it was a cunning plan to show a type of culture and identity. It perspires through. Yeah, Sanremo is such a part of Italian culture that it doesn't need to be guided most of the times to reflect the Italian cultural and social development. In delay, so usually happens on the stage 10 or 20 years after something has happened or has started to happen in the country, but it's quite. I don't think it's so. It's not top down. I don't think it's so much guided from a clever as a clever plan to. That's what Italy didn't understand of Europe, of the Eurovision. That could be done, and I don't think it happened in the last 10 years either. I think it was mostly by chance. It wasn't that Italy was felt like as an outsider, so there were no enemies, and it happened. There was this. It might seem that there is a growing voting bloc supporting Italy with neighboring countries, but I think it's quite natural. There's no grand plan.
The same question. I think that Italy in Eurovision and also in Sanremo Festival has it takes its own musical tradition. As I wrote also in my book, the Eurovision is the biggest stereotypical game. So it's because each nation presents to the other 39 or 40 countries where we are a part of his culture. And the most simple way to present itself to the other is playing a stereotypical game. And Italy, it's presented outside Italy with a typical stereotypical of musical. If you can, for example, when I talked to the other university student in Bologna, some months ago that I presented in my book, I asked to them that they were students from all over the world. What do you think is the music we heard it on the radio? No one was able to give an answer. I showed in the video of Il Volo in 2015 at Eurovision, and they said, "Oh, is this the real Italian music?" It's not. We don't we don't hear this kind of music on our radio. This is a stereotypical of Italian music abroad. Italian young music listen to pop, to rap, like the other all around the world. So I think. As for the question of the block votes, as Giacomo says, and we talked yesterday with the with San Marino delegation. We Italians have just a little problem because we complain when this game, when this block vote game is done to the other part of Europe. So why Nordic countries votes the one for the other? But if San Marino don't vote for Italy, San Marino don't vote for us. So that this is big problem. We have to be coherent about this.
Okay, I see. And you might switch your microphone off, please. Emanuele, switch your microphone off. Thank you. Yeah, we have similar reactions in our countries. However, one thing is very particular, and now I want to ask Cristina, because she's president of OG Italy, which is one of the oldest Eurovision Song Contest fan clubs in Europe. And it's still existing despite a period between 1997 and 2011 where there was no Eurovision Song Contest participation and no Eurovision Song Contest broadcast except 1 year in Italy. So, Cristina, to what extent did Sanremo help you and the other fans to survive this difficult period?
To be honest, I've always been a fan both of Sanremo and the Eurovision Song Contest. When I was a little child, mind you, I was born in 1966, so I'm speaking about the 70s. In Italy, the Eurovision Song Contest was a Saturday night show, like Sanremo was. We watched Sanremo, and after 1 or 2 months, we watched the Eurovision Song Contest. And that was quite natural for us. When I withdrew from the contest, well, okay, of course, we stuck to Sanremo. We enjoyed Sanremo as much as we could, and as there was no internet yet, or at least it was not so widespread. So we couldn't find any news about the Eurovision Song Contest. I remember the first year when Italy wasn't taking part, I watched it on a French television because we used to receive the French television. And then this changed as well. And these years were, can we say, dark years. But I wasn't in a club right then. But I know that they did anything to keep the passion alive. They teamed up with the other fan clubs all around Europe. They had virtual competitions with each club sending their songs, and it was quite well. I could laugh when I think about it now because they had to communicate via mail. I mean, real mail, written letters, not email. And they sent cassettes. Do young people know what cassettes are? No, because no, they had one this year. They had a cassette of the Eurovision Song Contest, and quite peculiar because it's for collectors. I mean, and so they did this. They met at least once a year. But when I came along, when I entered the club, Italy was still not taking part, but the net was there. And so we got news about the contest. We could even watch the performances online. But well, Sanremo did help a lot, because in those years Sanremo grew bigger and bigger. I remember when I was a child, we had 3 shows, but the first 2 went on the radio, not on TV. So you could only watch the third one, the third night. And Sanremo helped us by growing bigger and bigger, and by getting to be the most popular show in Italy, not only from the musical point of view, but from the entertainment point of view.
I want to come back to these club festivals, these club competitions. In this OGE song contest where Italy was quite successful, I think you mostly sent Sanremo entries to participate. In fact, this contest was supposed to showcase music that was not involved in Eurovision, but you always picked Sanremo songs. So did Sanremo coin your view of a typical competition song?
Well, of course it did. Of course, the Sanremo song has always been the typical competition song. I think with the years, we've grown more and more braver and braver, because okay, now we are showing to other countries other kinds of music, kinds of Italian music, but Sanremo has grown braver and braver too. Because if you take into consideration the last 3 editions by Amadeus, the musical choices were very brave. I mean, even Italian people nowadays read the list of the singers taking part in Sanremo and say, "What they?" And then they get to know them through the competition. But yes, of course, we used to send Sanremo songs because to us they were the perfect competition songs. That's why.
Okay, so we see that Sanremo is a very important part of the collective identity of the view on music for this kind of competition. Now I want to come back to Jalis. So you were talking, you were telling that you have tried 20 times since your last participation to be part of this festival, which is very important for a musician's career. How do you manage to do without Sanremo?
Si fa ugualmente, perché comunque Sanremo è un obiettivo, ma intorno a questo obiettivo c'è tanto lavoro, tanto altro da fare, insomma. Noi pensiamo a Sanremo perché vorremmo arrivare lì per chiudere un cerchio. Però non c'è soltanto Sanremo, noi continuiamo a lavorare, abbiamo fatto un disco durante il lockdown che si chiama Voglio emozionarmi ancora. Abbiamo anche dei CD, esatto. E quindi però il pensiero è fermo lì, perché noi vorremmo tornare, perché vorremmo riprendere un discorso che abbiamo lasciato in sospeso.
Well, of course they manage very well, because okay, Sanremo is I mean the main oddio, come si dice obiettivo? Target, oh grazie. Is the main target. But there's lots of things to do other than Sanremo and around Sanremo. Of course, the main target is Sanremo, because they feel like they would close the circle by going back to Sanremo. But they are still making a lot of music. They have the new CD, they have it here, Voglio emozionarmi ancora. And even though Sanremo is always on their minds, well, the music goes on and is more alive than ever.
Noi, esatto, continuiamo a produrre musica e già stiamo lavorando per il prossimo Sanremo, oltre che a pensare alle serate di quest'estate, quindi insomma siamo tosti, temerari e capoccioni, come si dice.
News che diciamo oggi.
Okay, so first of all, they're still they're going on producing music, and they are still thinking about their tour. Not only Sanremo, because they are tough, because they are not giving up, and because of course music is their life and their passion. And now there's some news.
La news è che a settembre usciremo, no, non sei tanto. A settembre usciremo con una versione in inglese di parole, scritta con un autore americano, e l'autore della versione inglese sarà un importante autore di.
Okay, so in September they will release the English version of Fiumi di Parole. It was written together with a very important songwriter from the USA.
Abbiamo già le prenotazioni, abbiamo già messo delle prenotazioni, quindi ci sarà da settembre probabilmente e sarà in vinile.
Sul sito praticamente. It will be a vinyl. This is wonderful for me, and it can already be booked. They've already opened the booking, so if you like, you can sul vostro sito. On the okay, you can write to info@jalist.it, and you can pre-order the vinyl. Great.
Okay, you see there's lots of collectibles in the air. So today there will be the chance to buy the record from Jadis. There will be a chance to buy Nico Don Vito's book. He brought some exemplaries. There will be a chance to attend Giacomo Natali's book presentation, where there will also be the chance to get this. And feel free to grab a free exemplary of Text, the publication of the Austrian broadcaster on public value. But before we are wrapping up with some music, and we are looking very much forward to that special performance, I give to Sophia for some questions from the audience.
Thank you, Irving. I have here a question, but I can say it's a problem because it's in German and I can't read in German. Maybe next year I will do it. So I will pass to you. This is Leah question.
So Leah is asking about the AI contest. Hello, Leah. This was the contest that we were talking about in the last Eurovision's conference, and there will be a new edition. Please check out the corresponding website. And yeah, of course, there's full of, the audience is bursting from questions. So who is first? Roberto.
Grazie. Io sono Roberto da Barcellona, Roberto Parodi, ci siamo fatti tanta compagnia via internet durante la pandemia, tutti i giovedì sera, è vero. Ciao, grazie. Sono un vostro fan, come ben sapete, e sono un grande collezionista di dischi dell'Eurovision Song Contest e dell'Eurofestival. E a questo proposito io difendo molto il collezionismo, cosa che è un po' anacronistica in questo momento, perché non si fanno più dischi, però se non si fanno noi non li possiamo comprare. Quindi è un po' la storia del pesce che si morde la coda. I cantanti e gli autori si lamentano che non si comprano, però noi non li possiamo comprare perché non vengono poi comunque pubblicati. E a questo proposito vorrei chiedervi, già che avete menzionato la prossima versione di Fiumi di Parole in inglese e in vinile, perché invece di fare un 45 giri, come buon collezionista che sono, non fate un EP con la versione di Fiumi di Parole originale, la versione che avete fatto nella compilation che è un po' più attuale, quella in spagnolo e quella in inglese. Noi abbiamo un gruppo in Facebook che si chiama Coleccionistas de Discos de Eurovisión. È in spagnolo perché l'abbiamo creato in Spagna, però abbraccia tutta l'Europa e ci sono tantissime persone interessate a queste nuove versioni. Detto ciò, io spererei sempre anche che quando si scrivono dei libri, sia su Sanremo sia sull'Eurovision Song Contest, si faccia anche un po' riferimento a questo tema discografico, cosa che purtroppo non viene più fatto, anche perché a Sanremo i dischi in vinile e oggigiorno i CD singoli non vengono più fatti. Ultima cosa che vorrei aggiungere, ho contattato tutte le persone che ho potuto contattare, in quanto dell'Eurovision Song Contest tutti i paesi hanno sempre pubblicato un CD cofanetto con tutte le rappresentazioni del loro paese. In Italia non è mai stato fatto. Io quest'anno ho provato a contattare Coletta, Martorelli, Fasulo e 2 etichette italiane che nessuno mi ha mai risposto. Mi sembrava una buona opportunità, così come nel 91 venne pubblicato Eurovision Top 12, visto che l'Eurofestival si faceva qui in Italia, che quest'anno si facesse un cofanetto con tutte le rappresentazioni italiane dal 56 ad oggi e con il logo magari Rai. Purtroppo nessuno mi ha mai risposto, evidentemente deduco che non ci sia interesse a questo punto di vista, quindi come far ritornare questo interesse? Perché altrimenti tutto ciò che è disco muore. A questo punto diventa solo scaricare, che è una cosa molto impersonale. Grazie.
So let me first sum up a little bit.
Grazie. Grazie Roberto, grazie di essere qui. Buona idea, un EP con diverse versioni di Fiumi di Parole. C'è anche la versione Kizomba. Posso dirti che molti artisti non fanno album o EP perché sono le case discografiche che vedono se il business conviene, se si vendono o non si vendono. Noi siamo degli artisti anomali, indipendenti, siamo degli artigiani della musica. Noi scegliamo di investire e noi lavoriamo per la musica, non per il business. Questo è un progetto che abbiamo voluto realizzare io e Alessandra. Sono 10 canzoni scritte durante il Covid, nella pandemia, scritte, suonate, arrangiate con questa tastiera e con queste voci. L'abbiamo fatto contro tutti. Tutti ci hanno detto, ma siete pazzi, non si fanno tournée, non si vendono i dischi. Noi abbiamo detto, noi amiamo la musica e le persone che amano la musica non si pongono limiti.
I will explain. Roberto proposed them to release an EP, an extended play with different versions of Fiumi di Parole, because it would be a great collector's item. And of course, Fabio agreed to this. He thinks it's a very good idea. And then his reply is that most of the artists do not release albums, CDs, and so on, because because it's not a good business, because it's the record label that decides whether it's okay for business or not. They are independent artists. They do not work for business, they work for music. And this CD they just recorded with this keyboard, with their voices, and and it's all song written during the pandemic, and it's something they've done with their hearts, most of all, because they're independent and they work for art and for music.
La differenza dei Gialisse, ma ce ne sono tanti altri che sono artisti indipendenti come noi, è che noi lo siamo stati già dal 97, una piccola etichetta di artigiani, e noi investiamo nella musica e andiamo avanti con le nostre produzioni. Quindi la musica è libera quando viene fatta fuori dal business.
The difference between Jalis and other independent artists and artists with official record labels, can we say, is that they've been independent since they were still independent in 1997. 95, yeah, okay. But as you won Sanremo, you were already independent artists. As independent, with an independent label, and they are something like artisans of music. They do all by themselves, and they do all because they believe in what they do. You believe in what you do, and you love what you do, and that's the difference.
So, and I will give the microphone for a very last short remark on Roberto's question.
Yes, and I want to add something about Roberto's questions, and we are talking before about Eurovision and the music in the Italian market. I made an interview in 2013 for the site EuroFestivalNews.com with Alessandro Ragni, who is a man on the music market. He worked for Sugar. He was part of the Eurovision in Italy in 2011, and then he worked for Sony with Marco Mengoni in 2013. And I asked to him why Eurovision songs don't come into Italian radio, and she says. Italian branch of the major don't work like a part of a big measure. They work their own. So the Italian market, we have the Italian bubble market. Then we have the English speaking market. Then in Italy we have the Latin part, because Italy and the Italians, they go. If we have some other space for other products, but the labels that then want to take the risk to invest on it.
Well, we hope that this will change with the Eurovision Song Contest here in Turin, with a new view on the importance of this competition. I thank everyone having been part of this panel. Thank you, Giacomo Natali. Thank you, Nico Donvito. Thank you, Emanuele Lombardini. Thank you, Cristina Giuntini. And thank you, Aijalis. And to finish, of course, we were all waiting for that. Fiumi di parole.
Of course, I'm really sorry for the sound and the check, that great difficult over the delay.
Proviamo. L'attacco con l'orecchio qua.
Mi aspetto mille scuse, come sempre da te. Sei un fiume di parole dove anneghi anche me. Che bravo che sei, ma questo linguaggio da talk show cosa c'entra con noi? Trovo l'unico rimedio che adotto da un po'. La mia testa chiude l'audio, la storia la so. Sei fatto così, dovrei limitarmi oramai a dirti di sì, fiumi di parole tra noi, prima o poi ci portano via. Ti darò il mio cuore, ti darò il mio cuore se vuoi, se puoi, ora parla con lui. Vorrei fermare l'immagine, sentirla entrare dentro di me. Un tuo silenzio più complice Ríos de palabras que van hacia un mar de melancolía. Quédate con todo, quédate con mi corazón. Quizás ahora me esconde, ahora habla con él. Fiumi di parole.
Thank you.
Grazie per tutto, and I say for networking, for autographs, for selling CDs, for selling books. Please go outside and do meet each other again in a few minutes for the last panel today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, we are back to the EUROVISIONS International Conference, the 5th anniversary edition, and I'm very happy to have here in the third panel Felix Bergson from the Icelandic broadcaster RUV. Thank you for being with us. With a very tight schedule, so we have to concentrate here on the Icelandic approach to music and public value. So in Icelandic television, what role does music play?
Yes, that's a big question. Yeah, I think that's this. It does play a big role, but you know we should do more music in our programming. But it's always hard for a small broadcaster to do too much programming. But music is definitely there. But Eurovision and Söngvakeppnin, our pre-selection, is one of the biggest. Probably the biggest TV event of the year on our channel.
Does RUV see itself as a kind of digger for musical talents within the musical landscape of Iceland?
Yeah, I mean, we started participating in Eurovision in 1986, and it was always very clear that we wanted to work with the music industry in Iceland. We wanted to work with the people who are working in music in Iceland. So we are putting a lot of money into it, and we want that money to go to the Icelandic music industry. So from day one, it's very clear in the rules that the songs have to be written by somebody who's working in Iceland or from, with an Icelandic identity in a way. We don't want generic Swedish pop songs to be sent to us and using them just because they are good. We want it to be Icelandic, and that's the reason that we sometimes have problems, so that we don't have that much to choose from. But it means at least that we are very proud of what we are sending, and it is basically done in our country. And it gives the nation a better sense of identity when it comes to it all. It is done by not necessarily Icelanders, but people working in the Icelandic music business, people who they see and know from their everyday life, and that makes a lot of difference, I think.
In the past, there have been, because we were talking about public value and attending to all groups of people in society, there were some reproaches that Icelandic television was not looking for enough female musicians.
Okay.
I remember Greta Salome doing some kind of remarks on that.
Yes, well, I mean, the pre-selection is very clear. I mean, people can send in songs, and that's basically what we were working with to begin with. And they were chosen without knowing the gender of the songwriter to begin with. But in recent years, we have felt that we really need to broaden this approach. So we have now the open source, everybody can send in songs, but we also approach certain songwriters, asking them to write songs for us. And I think there have been a lot of women in that group so far. We have a fantastic female songwriter this year, Lovísa Sigrúnardóttir, which is a big star in Iceland, and we are so happy to get her on board. And the runners-up were the Daughters of Reykjavik, who are also a very strong female troupe. So I think I hope we are doing better, but I think it's a good remark from Greta Salome, but I think we're doing better now.
Well, you have three sisters on stage this year. I think there's not much more women power that you can put on the Eurovision stage. Well, for a country that, as you say, has not so much choice of musicians, you always manage to find very extraordinary acts, and acts that are also conveying messages beyond their own music and, hello, I want to be famous. Is this part of a policy of RUV, or is it just happening?
It is just happening. It's not part of the policy. Of course, I mean, we want to play within the rules of Eurovision. I mean, we will know that Eurovision is a non-political event, and we want to play within these rules. But basically, since Hatari, I mean, I think everybody sees that they do feel that they have to have some kind of an agenda, and we try to steer them in the right direction so that it does comply with the rules of the competition. This year, it's very much about trans rights and rights of trans children. They feel very strongly about it. One of the members of Sisters, Sikka, has a trans daughter. So they are very, and we support them fully on that. Of course, we support them fully also, and I think everybody does support them on the Ukraine message that they want to portray. But we have asked them to keep that to a minimum, use it in interviews, use it outside of the Eurovision sphere, because that's really where we don't want it there. We want it to be, I mean, they can portray it in interviews and stuff like that, but I ask them not to be waving the flags on stage or anything like that. No political message on the stage. But, you know, we have a small Ukrainian flag in our green room, and we have a trans flag there. And so the message is there. But I really try to work with them to understand that it's necessary that Eurovision keeps its non-political facade just for the sake of having this one night a year where people can come together, enjoy a party, and not talk about politics.
Icelandic TV was fined for the stuff that Hatari did. So were you expecting that, and how did you feel about that? Did you think it was unfair or justified?
No, I thought it was totally justified, and we expected it, of course. And I mean, they broke the rules, and it was very clear. I mean, I think the EPU went quite far actually with Hatari. They allowed them very much. I mean, I discussed it at RUV when the whole thing started. I talked with my bosses and said, I mean, they've broken the rules already. Are we going to go with this, or what are we going to do? And we decided to go with it. It was decided by the highest people. They wanted Hatari to be there, and we of course worked with that, and they won an overwhelming victory. The nation wanted Hatari to be there as well. So it was very clear, but my task right through all that was to try to keep them in the contest, getting them on stage in the final. You know, we wanted them there. We wanted to show this brilliant piece of art that they were giving to Europe. And I always said to them, I mean, the artwork in itself speaks volumes. You don't need to be waving flags, and use the platform to say what you want to say in the interviews and stuff like that, but don't be, you know, but they decided to wave the flag in the end, and of course we were fined for that, and that was something that we all knew would happen. So it was the decision of the artist.
Well, so in the end, we can be happy because this is the climax of a wonderful documentary that was done on Hatari, a song called Hate, that I suggest everyone online and offline to watch. It's a wonderful piece of art. So, I mean, when RUV is involved in this documentary, so did you expect this to happen, this story, this road, and this climax?
I don't know what to say. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, it was one of the toughest Eurovisions that I've ever been in. Since I am a head of delegation, I have one aim, and that is to get our act on stage, to keep everybody healthy, to keep everybody safe, and to keep everybody relatively happy. But at that moment, we had basically two teams, because we had the documentary team with us at the same time. Always pulling, always trying to grab my artists to do something else, take them to Hebron, take them to Jerusalem, take them wherever, and working with other artists, and which is something that they wanted to do. So we gave them we always, it was very obvious in my program, when there were free times, they were free to do whatever they wanted to do, but we kind of stepped out of it and let the other team do it. But it was very, very difficult to make this. And it was really hard on the artists. I mean, they were on the verge of a nervous breakdown because it was so hard work. Just taking part in Eurovision is really hard work. And that's what I always tell my artists. You have no idea what you're going into. I mean, I sometimes tell the story of Eyþór Ingi, who competed in Malmö in 2013. He's a singer who can sing for days without losing his voice. But he came to Eurovision, he did the song twice on stage, and he lost his voice. Because there's something so completely different with the energy in Eurovision. So having these two things going on at the same time was very, very difficult. No, but the documentary is absolutely brilliant, and it portrays a story, and it tells a story of artists going through this big question, to be or not to be, you know, what are we going to do? Are we going to boycott, or are we going to do it, or are we going to go take it a step further? It's very, very interesting, but it's very hard in the context of Eurovision, you know, sometimes I would I would prefer to have a little bit less agenda and just more fun.
That's what we would prefer too, because now we already have to let you go, unfortunately, for your next meeting. But we are extremely happy that you had taken the time to be here with us and to share your experience with us. Thank you, Felix.
Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best. Thank you. Thank you.
And after a short break, we are continuing with our, let's say, third and a half panel about the Festival de Canção and the importance of music in Portuguese television.
Hello. Thank you again for being here and online for this conference. Now we are starting our last panel, so third and a half, as Irving told us before. So we had to do a small adjustment in our panels due to some busy schedules. Yeah, because this is a very busy week. So here is not Carla Bugalho, but Carla Bugalho was substituted by 2 persons. So Carla Bugalho have value for 2 persons. So yeah. So we have here, and thank you for accepting our invitation in so short notice. We have here Maria Ferreira. Welcome. Maria is a producer of the RTP Song Contest, or Festival RTP da Canção, our national selection. And she was events manager for the Eurovision Song Contest 2018 in Portugal. And she's the head of press of the Portuguese delegation. She worked for Endemol 3 years and then passed to public service because our topic today is the public service broadcasting and its value. So I picked it from LinkedIn, sorry, Maria. And she's a producer in RTP since 2014. So thank you. And then we have also Danielle Mata. He's a very young director of RTP. He's part of RTP Innovation Center since 2014. And first time in the Eurovision Song Contest was in Tel Aviv, 2019, where we met there. So, and since then, he's the responsible for the Portuguese entries staging. So they stressed it is a team, work team. So don't hit Danielle if something went wrong, because it's all fault. It was beautiful. So to start, I know, because I know you for a while, that you are responsible for several music shows in RTP, several music, not shows, but content in RTP. So what is your perception of the role of music in RTP? So I pass the word for you.
Good morning or good afternoon. I think actually RTP is doing more and more for music right now. In the last few years, music it's a difficult content in television. You have the talent shows or the voices, the formats, international formats, but it's hard to work around music because it's always a content that doesn't bring so many audience all the time. But I think RTP right now, it's the only channel in Portugal, the only TV channel in Portugal that is working with music. We are doing lives from music festivals in the summer. We are doing documentaries around music and musicians. We have made a collection of collection called Elétrico. You should look for it in the internet. That is always about inviting two musicians or groups to sing like a fight.
Opposite each other.
Yeah, opposite each other, but in the most beautiful and cool way. And we have been investing in our national selection for the last few years, and I think it's really working. So I think it's really important for the public service to show the music and the musicians and the art that is made in each country, of course.
In its essence, so good afternoon or good morning. In its essence, the thing is about music, it doesn't necessarily have a narrative arc. And in television, you have to have a narrative to support everything. So the way that those talent shows work, for example, is they add narrative and they add examples and they add life stories to music to make people already feel something about the artist before he starts even singing. The way that we have to approach music, I guess, in also in public broadcast and television is in the way we film it, in the way we show it. We have to add that narrative. That's basically the thing that we've been stressing these past 2 years, and also in the year of Conan. But that was a different year. It was my first, so I didn't know what I was doing at all. I still don't know. I faked through it. But the thing is, we try to do something that elevates the story and creates an arc from the beginning to the end. And everything we do in every art that we present, music doesn't have that to begin with. It is not a visual medium to begin with. Well, if we do a theater show, if we do a movie, well, obviously it's a visual medium already, but music is not. So when we add it, we cannot subtract from the experience of listening to the music. We have to add to the experience of listening to music. And we have to think about that every time we have some music content at all. So basically, before I'm sitting here, I was talking with someone you may have heard of. He's called Salvador Sobral, because
He was calling like...
Because for the past 6 days, while we are here, I'm also editing a live show of his for public television, and it's the same thing. We have to try to give some meaning to the images, some content, some narrative, and to make everything flow nicely and work with the song. And that's basically what we're doing here. And as we are a public broadcast, I think we have to give stage to the big artists, to the small artists, to every artist, because they deserve it.
If I can ask a follow-up question from that, how easy is it to work with the artists, to work on that narrative and other music industry professionals? Have you found like a change, in how you work?
There's above all, I think, the last 5 years of Festival da Canção. We had an accent of Festival da Canção. Festival da Canção. I think it's been slowly changing the perception that Portuguese artists have on the Eurovision stage and, well,
of RTP
in general. Yeah. The way that we work with artists is always to approach them in a very collaborative way. So when the first time we spoke with Mara, the first time we spoke with Black Mamba, it was like, okay, what do you see? What do you want? That's the first question. And then after that, after we meet them, after we are talking with him for a while, we get to know them, we get to feel them, we get to understand what they want to do. And after that comes the easiest part, which is just having fun and thinking about crazy ideas and seeing if it works. Last year, for example, one of the craziest ideas that we had, and maybe we could have won if that actually happened, but well, it didn't. At the end, Tatanka was supposed to throw his guitar through the air. Yeah. And there was a guy with a helmet ready to receive the guitar out of stage. But Tatanka was like, I don't think I'm going to try that. I'm scared of breaking the guitar. And I was like, you should have bought the cheapest guitar you had. But that's the kind of thing that we do. And this year with Maru, it's been wonderful because she's also she understands a lot of very much what she wants, and she's very focused about it. So there's not a lot of things that we have to you cannot do this, you have to think about that. She understands everything. She's very pragmatic and she's very to the point. And then it becomes easier because of that, because we are speaking the same language. It's all art. That is all. We are not technicians and they are not artists. We are all artists and we are all creating art together.
And I think the main thing, as Felix was saying in the conference before, is the way that we see of what we want for Festival da Canção and then for the winner to bring is to respect their music and to show the Portuguese artists that we have and the music that they do. We don't want to force them to do anything. They just have to be themselves, no matter what is the result of it. And I think nowadays, the artists in Portugal are trusting more in this team or in the several persons that work with us, because they know by the other artists that we always respect them, and we don't want them to be another thing that they don't are. So yeah, I think that's the main secret of dealing with them.
And there's also, sorry, I have to add something now. There's also another thing. Portugal is a really small country, so if we meet like 5 artists, we meet every artist. So if they spread the word about it. They say, oh, they're so beautiful. They're, as you can see, such a beautiful delegation. So we go there and we start looking at them and everything goes well. So that's the main thing. They are interested and they're excited to come here because the main thing that we tell them is like, let's do something that in the future we'll all be proud of. That's the number one rule.
I was thinking while you are talking, as a researcher of music on television, I realized some, I don't know, changes on the way of thinking, because for me, as a researcher, music is not the sound, and on TV, it's not the sound at all. Yeah, so this work of conveying the same narrative through the music, the staging, the performance, the whole narrative that you are creating with our postcards, for instance, I notice a change. So it's very, it's nice to hear from you what your way of thinking and respecting the musicians. I'm also thinking, because you are always stressing this idea of collaboration, collaboration with artists, also with the industry that are working contemporarily. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the collaboration with the radio inside the national broadcaster, because at least as understood, sometimes in the past they are a little bit apart. They are the same institution but working a little bit apart. But since 2017, I think, there are this collaboration with Antena 3 and with Antena 1, these radio broadcasters, national radio broadcasters. So can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I think RTP is one of the European broadcasters with more channels. We have 8 TV channels and 5 radio channels. So it's a big company with lots of people. And when you have a big company like this, sometimes there's a way of looking at things like there are very much houses inside one house, you know? We are always fighting against it, but it's difficult because it's too much people. It's normal, I believe. But yeah, since 2017, we approached the national selection in a different way, and including, of course, our TV and radio channels, because it makes sense to have it all together and to also to spread the songs with all the audience, the radio audience. And since then, and it has been growing on radio. This year, I think it was the first year where Antena 1, our first channel, radio channel, was completely inside the operation, working since day one on preparing all the content and preparing the content together with the team that does the TV broadcast, so that everything makes sense, you know, and everything is thinking the same content in the same way, but well, one is for radio and the other is for TV. And it has been interesting to have the radio back in the process, because too many years ago in Portugal, it was part of the process also. So I think we are going in the right way.
No, not on this topic.
Radio is not your thing.
Radio is not my thing.
Actually, following up from the question on radio, I wanted to ask, obviously, these days you have to have a broader strategy that includes social media. So if you could share some reflections of, you know, this kind of widening of media you have to pay attention to, so it's becoming more and more complex. So in terms of resources, in terms of strategy.
So we have here on the field, I mean, we have actually a person, a social media manager, that is during all day with the delegation. Our delegation lives together. We and the artists, during all days, we have lunch together. We are always together. We are always saying to the girls, if you want to go out, you don't have to stay with us all the time. And they said, no, we are all here together, so let's... And with us, we have a person, a social media manager, that, of course, we have planned the strategy before we come, but then, well, it goes with the flow, I mean. And also is doing content for the social media of the Festival da Canção, but also for the radios. It's the same person. So it's easy to communicate in the same way for all the channels. We also have to think about all the narratives since the beginning. And it has been always for us a strategy to work with the artists as on stage, out of stage also. We don't do any content that they don't feel well to do, you know? So every year you have different content on social media because it's related to what their way of seeing things, of exposing themselves. And well, we respect always the artist. And so the strategy goes with the artist, you know?
And there's also another thing, because right now the artist has social media. So the way that we approach it is to, well, I don't want to say take advantage of, because that sounds kind of cold, but we have to understand that when an artist like Maro has 203,000 followers, that means something. And we have to work with her to know that her identity on Instagram or on whatever social media platform we are talking about is not going to be compromised by what we want to do, but we know that it's a very powerful tool. Last year, Maneskin had like, what, 5 million, 4 million followers, so I guess that also works to win. So you kind of have to have a good song too. But that is really the main thing when our colleague that is here, our friend that is here, Philippe Ligeiro, is working with them. She always tries to make a bridge between what we do in our social media platforms, what Eurovision does in their social media platforms, and what Maro and the other 5 girls, because they are all independent artists this year. They are not choir girls with Maro. They are all singers and independent. They have all careers. They are all amazing. You should check them out. They all share in their little social media bubbles what they are doing, and that makes a difference. So we have to work on that and make that grow and grow, and work together with them.
Yeah. So this question led me to think about a topic that I like to address when we are talking about the Eurovision Song Contest or the Portuguese or other national finals, because sometimes we are talking about artists, about art, about music, and about media industry. And music today, and popular music, it's not apart from music industry also. And sometimes we are talking about in our conferences and our talks about culture in Eurovision, national identity, but industry, it's very strong. We have this environment in Portuguese music industry. It's a little bit different from big countries because we are a very small country with a very small market. But how do you deal, because Maro has this international management, so how do you deal with it?
Don't lie.
Actually, well, Maro, she's managed by the Quincy Jones Productions in LA. But on this process, she's Portuguese. She has lived in LA for several years, but she's a Portuguese girl. And of course, they take care of everything that she does, and she's preparing an album that is going out, and they are taking care of that. But since she has one in Portugal, she asked us if we could help her in Portugal, because I don't have representation in Portugal. And I think she trusts us to do it. So at this moment, she doesn't have a manager or a label in Portugal. She has the international one. And she has been since she won Festival da Canção till she got here. Actually, I'm almost being her manager for some things, of course. It's quite different each year, you know. As you said, in Portugal, we are a small market. Of course, we have to work with the labels and with the agencies of the artists. But as the country is so small, it's like Danielle was saying. If you know one or two artists, you know all of them. We know everyone from the labels, and it's a really small industry where everybody knows each other. And I think it has been for the Portuguese market. It's also very interesting that the national selection is growing, and the participation of Portugal in Eurovision is growing each year, because for them, of course, they have the most interest in that. So I think we are kind of a different country with an industry just so smaller than the other countries, that the influence of managements of labels on this process, it's much more smaller than the other countries, almost all of them. What is great for us, I must say. They have their job and their paper, of course. I think we live happily in Portugal with all the players on this game, but the thing is really cool and soft. Maru has this different thing. She has an international label and management of the biggest company, one of the biggest ones. But well, I think that she believed that they are Americans. They don't really understand the culture of Portugal in the beginning, and then the Eurovision, you know? So she asked us, can we do this only us together? And my agency and my management will work my career around this. And we said, of course, we are here for you. She's paying us a lot. No, she's not. Yeah, we are rich people now, as you can see. No, I'm kidding. It's part of the process. We are with her since the day she won. She is our daughter, I would say. And we take care of everything she needs, of course.
Just a small thing that I would like to add. I also, for us as creators, as artists too, it's a huge opportunity to show that we can do it. To show a huge multinational company that we are here and we can support her, and she loves our job, loves the way that we work with her. And that's also us showing that, look, we are Portugal, we are tiny, we are small, all of that, but look, we are on the same level as everyone else.
Thank you. Following from that, so the importance for the artist to break into new markets. So in a way, Mara was, although she had an international management, but she probably focused on the American market and winning in Portugal and then coming to represent Portugal in Eurovision will be a step into the European market. In terms of, and I thought it was really interesting when I was watching yesterday on the Eurovillage, I noticed that in the subtitles, he said that she had Italian background, Irish, and Cape Verdean. So I thought it was really interesting. She was ticking, or her management was ticking kind of the diversity box. So sorry, it's just this kind of side note, which I thought it was very interesting. But coming back to my question, regarding when artists then are participating in, of course, we're talking about Portugal, but even in other selections, is this kind of like entry points into a more international market? You know, how do you feel from your experience that is the case in their interest in participating in a national selection, or is just one more thing that they are doing?
Well, actually, I think, of course, it is its ways. But I think when we invite the composers for our national selection in Portugal, we invite composers and they bring their own singers who they want. They choose them, and they do all the song, and they just deliver us the song. They have completely all the freedom in the world to do whatever they want. And I think when we invite them, I think for them, the process of being able to have a budget, to invite someone, do a song, let's make this, participate in the design of all the staging. I think that is the first thing that they think. I don't think that they are in the beginning of the process thinking about Eurovision. Of course, in the end, it's interesting for every artist to be known by more people, of course. But I think that this grows with each stage that they go through. I think only when they win, they start to think about that. I think people don't want to think they can win before they do, just by precaution. And I think only after the win, they start to think, okay, this can be a chance, of course, for the European market to know my job and to know me. And I think we always try to don't pressure them at all. So we are always, our main thing is, come on, let's do our thing and be happy with it, and be proud of what you do. And it doesn't matter if we stay first or last. And I think all the artists have the same, maybe it's our fault. All the artists have the same spirit, you know, and think about the consequences later, I believe.
Last week we were in a conference here. It's a part of the same program. The first conference was organized by our partners here in the university. And we are talking about challenges and opportunities on Eurovision Song Contest. And I brought the example that you made last year in Rotterdam of the video clip of the Black Mamba. So I delivered it as how a challenging place and challenging context can be an opportunity to do new stuff. I don't know, as far as I know, I don't remember these kind of things in other editions, producing a video clip of other song, not the entry song. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, the Black Mamba, they are amazing musicians. And we had to be inside an hotel for 14 days or something. In Lisbon, they told me, can we do something, because we are going to be crazy if we stay inside the hotel. Huh? Actually, that song was done, or started to be done, Crazy Nando, in our presence. We were recording in Tatanka's house several times before Eurovision.
And you started the joke.
And they started as a joke, and they started to do the song with us inside their home filming.
We're just laughing, like,
crazy
guys jamming out.
Yeah. And then they went to Rotterdam with a studio, like I don't know how many extra luggage we have paid for, but they brought all their instruments and everything to put a studio on one of the rooms. And there was this idea when we left Lisbon, maybe we can do a video clip because the song is already masterizing, and and we said, well, we have to keep these boys occupied or they will go mad. And so, well, this guy and his camera, I think he's the best guy to talk about the nights that happened in Rotterdam.
Well, what happens in Rotterdam?
Stays in Rotterdam.
Well, there's no such thing as creativity without boundaries. And in that place, we had literal boundaries. We had corridors, we had rooms, we couldn't go anywhere. So we had to get creative. And the first thing that I thought about when they approached me to do the music video was, this is impossible. I'm not going to do a good job. work out bad. Let's try to do it in a cool, beautiful place here in Rotterdam. Let's try maybe to go to the garden and do a little beautiful thing. And so me and Lind Camacho Camacho was always also on the production and was also with them. He's their official photographer, and he's a great Portuguese photographer. We were talking about it, and we were like, what can we do? What can we do to make something that isn't like amateurish? And I have to give full credit to Tatanka, because he was the guy that was like, no, let's do something as ambitious and as crazy as we can without breaking the boundaries of what we are supposed to be doing here. And then in a crazy discussion in their studio, in the room of the studio, so I don't remember who, maybe it was me, I don't remember, someone suggested that they had to play every role. So they had to be the main actors. They never acted in a video clip of them before. So they were really nervous and anxious about it. And some things I asked them to do, and they were like, oh, that's going to look bad. I don't want to do that. I want to jump on top of him. And let's try it. And then, well, it was late at night, and there may have been some alcohol involved. I don't know. There was nudity involved. I'm sure of that. I cannot forget, even though I try. But then it was just like going crazy, trying to find a narrative structure inside the hotel and doing crazy stuff, asking other members of the delegation to help and to appear in the middle of the song in the cameos. And it was then edited in like, 5 hours or 4 hours or something like that, because, well, it was really well thought out before by us. Although it was crazy, it was thought out. And it was just as big a challenge as it was rewarding, because it's something that I'm truly proud of, because we did it. No, everyone is like, oh, that hotel looks cool. That hotel doesn't look cool.
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't look cool at all. They look cool, the hotel doesn't. And we just let the creativity go crazy, and the song is amazing. So for us, it was, when they showed me the song, they were like, this little song to do a video clip, and the song was 6 minutes long, and oh my God, what am I gonna do? If it was 2 minutes and a little thing, no. 6 minutes long song, parts, psychedelic stuff. Let's go, let's try. And we did it, and I think that for how many years go by, and in 20 years time, we'll look at that video clip, laugh a lot, and remember like we were there and we did it. Now they want to go to the hotel and put a, how do you say it?
Come back there and to put
a plaque?
No,
a sign there that says Crazy Nando was shot here.
Yeah, it's their plan for the future. But actually, it's curious to release a music video of another song in the middle of Eurovision. I talked with them about that several times, saying, "Are you sure you want to do it?" Because well, we are supposed to focus on that song and not in another one. They were like, "No, we want to show people our songs, and we have more songs, so let's go." And well, I think it worked. Eurovision, the Eurovision TV's team, when they heard about that we are doing a video clip, they asked us, "Can you send us, and we will share it also." And they did. So it was amazing because it was outside the contest. It's nothing to do with the contest itself, but yeah.
So actually, a challenge could be an opportunity. And Danielle was talking about creativity, and I think it's could be a way for wrapping up this session, because Danielle is part of Innovation Center. Maria is part of the RTP Memory, I'm translating, team, but the office is the same. And Danielle was studying, I don't know if it is the right concept for the RTP Academia. So this morning, when we were talking with Konrad, Michka, and Jean-Philippe about the public value, we were talking exactly about these innovation centers and also the role on national broadcasters on this training for professionals. So as a kind of conclusion on our session, can you tell us a little bit more about these ideas of having innovation academia as well as memory in the same, not even in the same office, but with the same people?
It's the same team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just give my short answer, and then you'll do the correct answer. The three concepts work together because they are meant to be together. There's no academia without memory, and there is no innovation without academia. So there's the answer.
Yeah, makes sense. Actually, Academia FTP was a project that existed a couple of years ago. Not a couple anymore, you are old.
10 years ago.
It had like 100 people that study or cinema or TV or something related to broadcast. They have a chance to present a project, and they were chosen 100 people, I think.
Yep.
100 people. They joined the Academia, and they were there on RTP working for 9 months to producing these projects that I presented. And the best ones, this can be a little bit, but the best ones for...
Not necessarily the best ones, but the ones that fit a certain profile. Let's say it like that.
You don't fit anything. No, but well, there was chosen some of the people who did this Academia to be inside a team that was being created on that time, on 2014, called Innovation, RTP Innovation. So it was, in the beginning, it was this, Gonçalo Madail, it's the one that managed this team, invited some of the guys who were in the Academia before, like Danielle, he was one of them, and bring together, and we made a team of people who already work in television for several years, but not old enough to work for too many years, and with new ideas and new approachings of doing it. And we brought our kids, that now are old people, to join this team and to bring some freshness and some innovation to the process. A couple of years ago, we had another board in RTP on that time, and that board invited Gonçalo to take, to be the head of programs for a channel that we have that's called Memory Channel. And he was like, but the youngest team in RTP you are doing to put us to do the Memory Channel that works with the archive and things. And he said, yes, I think it makes sense. Only the youngest ones can look at the past with a contemporary look of it and to bring some freshness to this channel. And so it happened. So now we have a team. It's the same team we're called together, but we have Innovation and RTP Memoria working together and doing content. Innovation does some content for RTP Memoria and for the other channels, but we all work as a team. It seems a little bit crazy, but it works, actually.
It works because it's crazy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, just kind of reflecting, is really good to see that things are working and that, you know, you are feeding into new teams and refreshing the teams, and, you know, you're bringing new people into your teams. That is really satisfying to know. But obviously, I'm aware there's people in the room. I don't think we have questions online, but if anyone would like to ask a question or even just share a reflection, please feel free. We'll get the mic to you, because we only have...
This is the first time in my life that anyone has asked
minutes.
me a question in the audience, so thank you so much. If anyone else wants to do it, please.
Here's the microphone.
Our hotel, you cannot talk about our hotel last time you were there.
Of course not.
I'm kidding.
First and foremost, parabéns, congratulations to you and your team for making it to the grand final last night. The question that I have is about a new addition to the Eurovision family, which has to do with where I come from Canada. And given that you are both part of what's becoming an institution of the music scene in Portugal, I wonder what kind of advice you would give to the people who are going to be trying to do that in Canada, in a market that doesn't have really any talent shows and anything that's comparable from an entertainment point of view to something like Festival de Canção or Eurovision?
Well, the American Song Contest has been a little bit the same. I think Festival de Canção started in 60, you know it, or? So it's part of everyone's who's alive today life, you know? All of us, yeah, it's part of the history, of course. Yeah. So I don't know how in a country that doesn't have that cultural part, it will happen. But I think Canada has a wonderful music industry. I think let's see how they will approach it. But I believe actually Maru, before coming to Eurovision, she was opening for Charlotte Cardin, a Canadian artist, doing a tour around Europe. And I think Canada has wonderful artists. It's just to try to bring them in the right way. I don't know, I didn't understand everything that you said because it was a little bit loud. I don't know if I answered all the questions.
Well, I guess maybe what I could ask is, because this has been recent for Festival de Canção since 2017, you've seen a renewed interest in the contest within Portugal. And what advice would you give? What's worked for Festival de Canção that you could recommend to a brand new song contest?
My recommendation is to bring the real musicians that don't need TV or this kind of TV shows to live. I think that was our main secret. The festival in Portugal, it was in decadent. I don't want to say that word, but it was, well, not going so well because it became, and it's nobody's fault. It has happened with the times, and it was only the artists of Festival de Canção. They were depending on TV shows to live to be someone, you know. And I think the biggest secret since 2017 is that we brought the real musicians that are doing their music and that don't need television for anything. They are doing their own careers. We could bring them into the festival. And that is the main secret, to have real musicians that have their careers. They can be starting a career or being national stars. We have to have them all, but they cannot depend only on this, you know? They cannot be a product. They have to be artists. I think that's the main secret.
Well, I'm 30 years old. When I was growing up, festival was not didn't connect at all with my generation. So I kind of know what she's talking about from an outside experience. The first festival of Portugal that I've ever worked on was 2017. So, well, I'm a good luck charm. So are you? So are you? And that year was the year that created the difference. And I think most, outside of everything that Maria said, which is all completely true, the thing that I think it's the most interesting that we communicate with the artists is they are not there to, they are there to not compete with each other. They are there to show themselves. They are there to present themselves in a way that makes them feel good. They are there not to like win as the first objective, but to be proud of something. And that is artist talk. That's not commercial talk. And I think that always appeals more to artists than, well, you have to win this and let's compete and stuff like that. I don't think that's interesting at all, but I'm a dreamer. I think no, there should be no competition in the world and stuff. I think it just, but I think that's we try to keep it simple and keep it beautiful in that meaning of like, let's just try to enjoy ourselves and like try to make everyone here proud of what they are doing and be creative together.
Obrigado.
Thank you.
So thank you very much to to our guests, Danielle Mata e Maria Ferreira. So we are reaching the end of our third panel and also the end of our conference. So one final reflection that was brought up by Maria regarding the American Song Contest. So all traditions are invented.
Of course, this starts somewhere.
Exactly. And our conference is also a tradition that Irving and Sophia invented, but we are already in our 5th edition. So it's kind of, oh my God, how did this happen? And now I pass on to my colleagues.
So your first time was also 2017.
Yeah. A great year. For me, it was 2017.
Thanks, Portugal. So, this is maybe not the right position for the closing words. So, not here. Yeah. Yeah, this is the best. So, with all these, surrounded by all these wonderful people, and with all these wonderful, yeah. So, this is perfect. Yeah, yeah. Again. Okay, so why not? So thank you for the wonderful people here in the panels. Thank you for the wonderful people in front of their PCs at home following this conference, for the lots of questions, for the remarks, for everyone here in the audience, and thank you to Sophia, to Carla, to Isabel at home. It was a wonderful show, and like a real Eurovision show, we close it with the Eurovision anthem. So you cannot escape. Okay, so la 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 la. La 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 la. This show was brought to you by the Eurovision's International Conference, eurovisions.eu. You can follow all our activities there and on our YouTube, Facebook, and whatever channels. See you next year in, who knows?